Disney company was going to acquire Henson Associates, Jim Henson's, the actual company name. Jim loved experimental filmmaking. I mean, that was what his really passion was. And so he wanted to do more of that creative stuff and not run a big company. So it was decided that we were going to create Muppet Studios. Now here's a model of part of Muppet Studios. We don't have the back end. And Muppet Studios at the time was the 3D film, Muppet-Vision 3D, which Jim had a passion for because he always wanted to put the Muppets in a 3D film environment. And we had the Great Muppet Ride, which was the other attraction. We had Rizzle Rat's Pizzeria, we had the Swedish Chef Cooking School, we had the merchandise location, and there was a lot of other interstitial things throughout the land with little discoveries. Because we have less than an hour, we're not going to talk about all that. We're really going to focus on the 3D film, which is what Jim's passion was. Now, we set up the teams at Imagineering. One team was going to do the Muppet movie ride, and one team was going to focus on the 3D film. And this is a picture of us with Jim in his office in New York. We go back row left to right, Michael Sprout, who was the writer on the Great Muppet Movie Ride. Next to him in the white beard is Michael Frith. Michael Frith was Henson's chief creative officer, chief creative director. Marcello Vignelli, you guys can help me there, who was an illustrator with Disney, was working on Muppet Movie Ride. Jolan Cicero, next to him, Muppet Movie Ride. The women with, the female with Jim holding her shoulder is actually my wife, Anne, who was a writer on the land. Corey Soulson is next to Jim. Corey was the art director for the Great Movie Ride, and so it made perfect sense he was going to be an art director on the Great Muppet Movie Ride. Then there's me with that beautiful sweater. And then that's Jim Lewis is next to him. Jim Lewis wrote a lot of the stuff for the land. Jim Lewis did not write the film. That was done by Bill Prady. Have you ever heard of Bill Prady? Woo! Have you ever seen
2.5 Men?
2.5 Men? Well, no. Big Bang Theory. He created the Big Bang Theory after he left Muppets. So that's Jim Lewis. He was a writer. Sitting down is Kathy Rogers. Kathy was our producer on Muppet-Vision 3D. Colette Hope was the interior designer on the Great Muppet Movie Ride. And then the guy with the white jacket is Craig Yo, and Craig was the president of Henson Associates at the time. So this was, sadly, this was 2 months before Jim passed. So we were lucky we would often meet in New York with the Henson group. They would often meet with us in Glendale. It really was a collaborative spirit between two very highly creative organizations. So this is basically the Muppet-Vision 3D team, the kind of the executive creative team. That's me, and I swear to God, those pants are coming back in style. You'll see. Eric Jacobson standing up and then that's Kathy Rogers next to the penguin. So that was our creative team for the Muppet-Vision Ride attraction. For us, Muppets always seemed they lived in New York. That's where we, in our minds, that's where they were from. They lived in New York. Even though the show itself, that we all know, was filmed in the UK, in London, it just felt like the Muppets belonged in New York. And so a lot of the styling of the land was kind of based on New York architecture, including the water towers and the clock towers and all the brickwork. It was basically all of New York. So this was the Muppet Labs. Remember, we're building a laboratory. We're not building a soundstage. This is actually Muppet Labs. That's our story. This is the laboratory. And so there's a lot of stuff that had a laboratory kind of feel to it. Obviously, there's more of those interstitial gags where they didn't finish painting because the scaffolding fell, and there's lots of those kinds of things that happened in the land. This is a model of the theater, looking down towards the orchestra pit. Interesting about this, I think this could be one of the first times I'm aware of where we did projection mapping. The entire theater inside, those big walls on the sides, they were all projection mapped. Now this was years before we had video projectors, So these were actually giant slide projectors. We had an artist named Marie Miller who hand-painted glass slides of all the ornamentation. They were all hand-painted, each one of them. They all had to register and line up. And then the back, what this? And then, of course, the back with the Yell and Howl Theater projection room, where, of course, if you remember the film, that's where the Swedish chef comes out and fires his blunderbuss. And then here is the actual theater. So everything you see between those columns, that's all projected. And it's all projected on scrim because if you remember the film, at the end, the entire theater kind of blows up.
So if those weren't projected, what color would those red panels be?
They were white. They were a gray color. Yep. And every time somebody walked up on the catwalk where the projectors were, we all held our breath, because if they nudged the projector or accidentally touched it, everything would get out of registration. And so it was like, don't go upstairs unless you absolutely have to.
Did it just switch one slide to the
Yeah, just one slide switch. Yep. And then because they're scrims, then we lit behind the scrims, and you could see the destruction of the theater behind. Yep. And they're the back of the theater. Now, as we continued the development of the show, Henson and that group were responsible for doing the film, or our group was responsible for doing all the in-theater effects, the animation, all of that stuff fell on us. Obviously with Henson's oversight, but we were basically in charge of all of this kind of stuff. And then, again, Marie Miller, that was like kind of the artwork that started, where Marie Miller would then paint that on a piece of glass. And then if you see over in the top left, you can see some of the art direction stuff that we did. We located where we wanted the screen to blow out at the very end. So behind the screen, those were, again, voids that would happen in theater effects. Remember in our story, Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker, thank you. They created this space just to show this film. So when you're in the pre-show, that's why it looks like it's a piece of scenery, because that's really what it was. It wasn't a real theater, even though we modeled the theater after the television show with the opera boxes with Stadler and Waldorf, and we made it so that Bean Money came on the other side too. So that's what we did. Now, for half a second here, you're all going to be Imagineers, you're going to be art directors, and this is this was from my notebook, typical art direction of watching the show and just making notes. Well, we can't see this, so the orchestra comes up too late, or the blunderbuss or the Swedish chef doesn't come out soon enough. And these are all basic notes that we would give the animators or special effects people or whoever needed to see it, because this was our process. We do it, we don't stop, we don't ever stop making it better until they finally say, we're unlocking the doors, go away. This is, as you know, Jim sadly passed away before the film was complete. It was thought that the principal photography was complete with Jim, but Frank Oz came in and basically finished the film, and they determined that they needed a few more scenes shot. So they shot a few more scenes, and then next to Frank is obviously me, and then that's Steve Whitmire. Steve Whitmire was Bean Bunny, a couple other, he was the Waldo character, and Steve took over for Kermit, doing the Kermit voice and puppeting when Jim passed away. And that's me and Steve at the closing of Muppets 2 months ago. And then, so this is an interesting picture. It's me with the characters, but the reason we took this picture is, so the biggest challenge for us, was not the film, was not the animation, was getting the performance of the Muppets to be consistent. Because Frank Oz was Miss Piggy. Jim Henson was Kermit the Frog. You couldn't separate them. You couldn't bring in, it was difficult to say, we're going to bring in this guy to be Miss Piggy. Obviously they had to do it eventually because Frank retired from doing Miss Piggy. But at the time, in our minds, how are we going to duplicate their performances in the theater, show after show after show? Luckily, Henson had been experimenting with what they called the Waldo Mitt, which was essentially a remote control computerized system where the puppet would be moving and the puppeteer would be off stage. So we basically took that idea, and instead of puppeteer doing it, a computer would do it, but we would have Jim and Frank and Jeff Jewell and all the performers do the first performances, and we would capture that stuff on computer. This right here is, the reason we took this picture is Sweetums behind her was actually performed, not voiced, but performed by John Henson, Jim's son. John came down to Orlando and he trained the first Sweetums characters on how Sweetums lumbered and walked and moved his head. And so that's actually John Henson in that costume right there. We decided to take a picture with the other characters. So here is behind the scenes stuff of us recording Jim and Jerry as Stavner and Waldorf, and this is them performing against the film that we're going to now give this information to our animators who are going to animate the animated figures, okay? And if you could make sure the audio's up, because I'm not sure the audio is perfect here. If you could do that, it'd be great, thanks.
Hey, Waldorf, what are we doing here anyway?
Well, it's one of those 3D movies. You put on your glasses, Stavner. There.
Hey, look, Waldorf! There's Henry Kissinger!
Well, that's not Henry Kissinger.
The silly lady!
Now they're reacting to what's on the screen.
You know that conductor's a penguin?
Well, it's not surprising. These Muppet shows are for the birds! Who's turn him? Walmart, it's that dumb bear again!
Yeah. Hey, Bear! You're not even funny in 3D! We entered a contest!
Yeah, we lost! Now this act's all washed up.
Yeah. Hey, Bear! Throw in the towel!
Hey, what's all the commotion about?
Well, you know what they say. Here today, gone tomorrow.
This is a very moving moment.
Yeah, I wish they'd move it to Pittsburgh.
Okay. Take 4, 3, 2, 1.
We surrender! We surrender! What'd you think?
Do we have time to go to the bathroom before the next show?
We can't, you old fool. We're bolted to the seats.
On page 15.
This is Jerry Jewell reading Sweetums lines.
Sweetums reaction. Ready? Page 15, Sweetums reaction.
Thanks.
Page 16, Sweetums dialogue.
Hey, buddy! Oh, buddy! Where are you? Buddy! Oh, buddy! Buddy ran away!
Down the bottom.
Anybody seen a buddy?
Next page 17.
I don't see a bunny. Where? Where? Oh, nothing up there but a bunny. A bunny? Hey, Kermit! Kermit!
And then on page 19.
I'll save you, penguins!
What amendment? Bottom of page 20. I'll say the penguin. Bottom. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Oh no! The fireworks!
Once more.
Oh no! The fireworks!
And at the bottom.
Wow! You people have to see that film that's going on in here! What an ending!
Doesn't that bring you back to the show, just hearing that voice? Yeah.
Well, what was Jim like to work with? Because I think a lot of us have such, we miss him, obviously.
For me, Jim Henson was my Walt Disney, right? I didn't grow up in the 50s, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so I didn't have the coonskin hats and the wonderful world of Disney. I had the Muppets and Sesame Street. And so Jim Henson was my Walt Disney. He forgot he was Jim Henson because he was so accommodating and friendly, and there was no idea that was bad. You know, we would have brainstorming sessions and someone would say something like, would be really like not really practical or not really relevant. And you knew Jim didn't like it because he'd go, what else we got? But he would never say anything was bad. He would just say, yeah. And so we'd all start to pick up on that, like, I don't think he likes that idea. But he was so generous with his time, and just so, he just loved to talk to people about creativity, about filmmaking, about entertaining people. And he was just so nice. And you could see that one picture in his office, he was just like, come up to my office, let's take a picture, let's do this, and so it's just, he was great. And everybody with Henson Associates was the same way. Bill Prady, Jim Lewis, Michael Fripp, we were all in it together, and there was zero egos at all. After we finished Muppets, I got transferred over to Tomorrowland, where we were trying to fix some stuff.